UFC Fight Night from Rotherham. Headlined by, of course, Andre Arlovski versus Alistair Overeem. Holland's pretty much premier martial artist in terms of MMA. I really can't think of one that ranks above Overeem. Let's get to work. Willie Gates versus Ulka Sasaki. I saw a bloody elbow pick Ulka Sasaki, and I don't get it. Willie Gates decision. Everything. Leon Edwards versus Dominic Waters. I'm going to go with Leon Edwards to win via decision. I think he's just a little bit better everywhere. Waters kind of disappoints me by repetitively wanting to fight where people are best at. Sometimes that works because he's a fantastic athlete and physical specimen, but his technique is kind of raw, and his game planning is puzzling at the best of times. So I can't bring myself to pick that. Kyoshi Horiguchi to win a decision against Neil Siri. Normally I would take Horiguchi by finish, but Siri is ultra tough and actually very good defensively. His problem is I don't see where he can beat Horiguchi, really. Horiguchi is the better wrestler, probably the better grappler, the better striker. I just think that Siri's style is good enough to survive against top competition, and his record has thus far really kind of proven it with, in the fights with Louis Smolka and also Brad Pickett. He did surprise me by beating Chris Beal, but aside from that, it's been kind of largely exactly as expected with Siri. He's good. But at 36 years old, he's not going to make a huge amount of progress in the flyweight division. He's really good, really tough, but just not quite good enough to beat the mid to upper levels of the rankings. And Horiguchi is, arguably I'd take Horiguchi in a fight against anyone not named Demetrius Johnson in a couple of years. I think probably right now I'd probably pick Joe Benavidez still over him, and then probably Henry Cejudo. That's probably the extent of it, though. Like, once you get outside of that group, I don't really know who I'd pick against him. He looked kind of human against Chico Camus, but everyone does. Other than that, he's just more or less plowed through people on his way to a title shot, which he lost, and now it's time for him to rebuild. Reza Madadi, Yan Cabral, taking Yan Cabral. Reza Madadi, since he's been to prison, has not really been the same fighter. I think that, needless to say, that's a big moment in your life as a fighter, and you lost some time training, etc. And it's not a good place to be, obviously. Cabral should be the better grappler of the two. It should be pretty even on the feet. I don't see him submitting Madadi because Cabral's UFC run has actually been pretty disappointing. He's been 2-2, having beaten David Mitchell and Naoki Katani, who are both pretty useless when we really think about it. I don't think Katani ever won a fight in the UFC, and I think Mitchell had like one win. Katani went 0-3 in his most recent run. Prior to that, had fought in the UFC, losing to Thiago Tavares. So he's 0-5 in two UFC runs, including a loss to KG Johnson, who's pretty much the bottom rung. Mitchell beat Simeon Thorson after losing to TJ Wahlberger and Paulo Tiago. Then lost to Mike Pierce and Cabral. So wins over guys who are combined 1-9 in the octagon. Not inspiring. Still, gotta pick him here. I'm also, at this point, I'm just not on the Madadi bandwagon. John Tuck versus Josh Emmett, going with John Tuck by decision. I think he's just a little bit better everywhere. I don't think he has a definitive advantage anywhere, but I think that if it goes to the ground, he's going to be that little bit better. If it stays on the feet, he's going to be that little bit better. Emmett's probably the better wrestler of the two, but when you can't out-grapple a guy, you can't out-strike a guy, the wrestling isn't as big of a deal. Magnus Cedenblad versus Gareth McClellan. Cedenblad, if he doesn't get carried away with this, he's been talking about how he wants to be a new fighter. I'm just hoping he doesn't try too many new things against McClellan, because this is a fight he can win. McClellan's not going to beat people that are the same size or bigger than him, and that's Cedenblad. Cedenblad is massive for the middleweight division. Very tall, very athletic, very strong. Technically, he's been a little bit lacking at times in his career. But, he's had a pretty solid UFC run, all things considered. Yes, I mean, wins over Jared Hammond, Krzysztof Jotko, and Scott Askham are not the most highlight reel wins. But he's very good. He'll catch some interesting chokes. He's good at grinding, and he should outgrind Garrett McClellan here, because that's what McClellan wants to do, and he's not as good at it. I also feel this is kind of a step down in competition, but I am realizing now that Seed and Blood's been out for a year, more than a year actually. So ring rust maybe, but I don't think so. I think this is a setup fight to get him back going. Hustam Habalov versus Chris Wade. This was going to be Chris Wade versus Rashid Magomedov, I do believe. One of a couple of late notice replacements. Josh Evans also late notice replacement, replacing Nick Hine, and I think it was Paddy Holohan before his retirement was supposed to fight Willie Gates. I'm picking Habalov. I think Wade is the better fighter long term. I think that the Habalov we see is the Habalov we're going to get. I think he'll get better, but I don't think he'll make leaps and bounds. Whereas I think Wade still can. Like, he's at that point of his career where I think there's a lot of things he can improve. But right now, I'm going to go with Habalov. Wade's looked really good, but it's been against, like, pretty lackluster competition. I mean, let's put it this way. Mengi Baddad, Christos Giagos, Jean-P. Lang, and Kane Carrizosa. Not a great run to 4-0. Not a great run. And the Giagos fight really had some bad moments for him. I think Habalov's going to have the wrestling to put him on his back. I hope this turns into a wrestling match, because if these two go out, and it's been suggested that they may just try and kickbox it out, that's going to be not fun. I mean, Habalov, just, if you look at the guys that have beaten Habalov, and they just look a lot better than Chris Wade has so far in his career. I mean, we're talking Benson Henderson and Adriano Martins. And Adriano Martins was a good fight. Benson Henderson, former champion. This is a guy who's beaten Norman Park, George Masvidal, both who are fighters I think are better than Chris Wade and present more interesting challenges. Yeah, I'm going to go with Habalov to win this fight, probably by decision. Heather Jo Clark versus Karolina Wozniak. I think I'm saying that right. I'm taking Karolina. Heather Jo Clark is just... She was on the Ultimate Fighter, so we're going to give her some time. And she's done actually better than expected in the UFC, beating Beck Rollins, a fight that I thought she was going to lose quite handily. But she's just not that great of an athlete, in a nutshell. And you look at some of the girls that Karolina's beaten already, specifically looking at Randa Marcos. It's a much better talent pool than what Heather Jo Clark represents. She is the journeyman veteran of the division, and she's there to set up someone to move towards probably a title shot at some point, depending. Because Joanna and Jacek's just going to keep churning out the wins, in my opinion. That's just me, though. Francis Barbosa versus Nikita Krylov. Oh, God, hopefully Nikita Krylov. Barbosa is the most boring 205er. Okay, 205 is pretty boring, so maybe there's someone boring, but he's boring. And he's boring and not terribly effective at it. That's the other thing. We're talking about a guy who lost a decision to Hans Stringer, which is not great, and was part of one of the most boring fights I think I've ever seen with Ryan Jimmo. Hopefully Krylov's combination of, like, oddly powerful kicking game, weird submissions, and things you really don't want to hope on for a win, to be honest, can beat Barbosa, who probably has more fundamental tools. But come on, Krylov really big. He's shown an ability to stuff fundamentally fine clinch grapplers and so on, like Stanislav Nedkov is a good example. And also the Cody Donovan fight to a certain extent, and get the job done there. So Krylov, I'm going to say by some kind of... No, Barbosa's not going to attack. Krylov by ugly, weird decision. Let's go with that. Jermaine Durandine versus Anna Almos. I think Anna Almos is also a late-minute replacement. I'm not sure who she's a replacement for. I just could swear this was supposed to be someone else. She's a little undersized for the division, but she is actually a really good pickup. Although only if they follow through this women flyweight idea. We got the Joanne Calderwood versus I cannot recall who she's fighting now. The upcoming Joanne Calderwood fight, with the first women's flyweight fight in history in the UFC. Is coming up, and hopefully that preludes us to adding the division, because there's a lot of bantamweights who probably could go down there and establish it. And it also just seems weird that there's a 20-pound leap in there. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. There are also some strawweights who could probably go up and actually have a safer time cutting. I'm looking at Valley Letourneau. Wait, is it Letourneau fighting Calderwood? Might be Letourneau fighting Calderwood. Germaine DeRemedy is an incredible. She's a 5-3 fighter, which on his face looks terrible. Except you have to realize that she's almost everyone she's fought, with the exception of Stephanie Weber and Nicole Johnson. Playboy Fight Night 5. Oh God, I don't even want to know about that card now. Are like very known commodities and pretty decent fighters in their own right. It's been sort of like Amir Sadallah's early career, in the sense that there was no building process. This was just right into the, not necessarily the deep end, but, well, Vanessa Porto actually would be the deep end, but the semi-deep end. There was no shallow end, no waiting pool portion to the career. She's a fair bit bigger than almost, like, she's a legitimately sized women's bantamweight. I think she's fought at women's featherweight, actually, a few times, and not looked that small. I got her winning this fight via size. The fact that her game actually kind of is a lot like Almos's game, like it's a very good kickboxing game. She doesn't necessarily respond to pressure well. That'll be the one thing Almos could possibly use. Is just get on her, be aggressive, and be in her face. She hasn't reacted well to that in the past, but I don't see her being big enough to really do it. So I've got DeRemedy by decision. I'm taking a lot of decisions here. It's kind of bugging me. But there will not be a decision in this one. Albert Tumenov versus Gunnar Nelson. The shine on Gunnar Nelson has come off a lot. I mean, he was a guy who came out with like this odd karate/BJJ style that had a lot of success really early on, and then he got to the UFC, and it's not really been tremendously smooth sailing. The record has been good, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's gone, what, 5-2? But the loss to Rick Story, the loss to Demian Maia both exposed some holes in his game. The win over Brandon Thatch, which is kind of supposed to be his big one, really doesn't look good now with that we've seen Brandon Thatch pretty much burn out. And then, like, George Santiago, who was at the end of his career, DeMarcus Johnson, Akhmadov, both cut. Zach Cummings. So I guess Zach Cummings becomes his biggest win by default. And in that fight, he had some troubles. So the question becomes, can Tumenov keep this fight standing? Because if he goes to the ground, I think Nelson subs him. But on the feet, Einstein is quite brilliant, and outside of like Lorenz Larkin's like weird kicking game, hasn't really had a problem handling people on the feet. And I don't think Gunnar has anything particularly new for him on the feet. I mean, his style is odd, and it'll take a bit. That's why I think we'll see a kind of timid first round, but I think Tumenov turns it on afterwards. I've got Tumenov winning by TKO because I do believe he can stuff some takedowns. Nelson is not a fantastic takedown artist. He's still probably amongst the best that we've seen Tumenov fight. Tumenov did get taken down by Ildemar Alcantara, but Ildemar Alcantara is a huge fighter for the weight class. He handled the takedowns of Nika Masoke pretty well, and kind of knocked out Anthony Lapsley before Lapsley really could get rolling. Lapsley's probably the best wrestler he's fought. I don't know. Going with Tumenov. Got this feeling that Nelson just, like, and Nelson's coming off of a fight that a lot of fighters tend to really have troubles with, which is I went in there with my strongest element, which is his BJJ, and I got destroyed. People thought he was going to beat Demian Maia, and I laughed at that. Hopefully he wasn't under the idea that he could out-grapple Demian Maia, because if so, his confidence might be completely crushed in that regard. Taking Tumenov via TKO. Struve versus Antonio Silva. This one will finish in a finish because these two are not going 15 minutes. One of them will knock the other one out. I'm going to go with... Oh, man, I don't want to pick this fight. This is so painful to look at. Outside of the win over Saul Pelele, where he almost got KO'd, Antonio Bigfoot Silva has been really, really, really rough since kind of a career-defining knockout of Alistair Overeem, which was supposed to be him going to the top. Since then, he's gone 1-4-1, including getting knocked out by Frank Mir. Man, and Struve is not a lot prettier. Won a decision over Big Nog, lost a decision to Jared Rochelle, got knocked out by Overeem, knocked out by Hunt. Again, his career's kind of really gone downhill after what was supposed to be kind of a career launching pad when he knocked out Stipe Miocic back in 2012. He's had some health problems, and it's been kind of ugly for his career. Struve is the longer fighter. I think he may be the tougher fighter at this point. He's still only getting knocked out by big punchers, and Bigfoot Silva is getting knocked out by everyone, it seems. So I'm going to go with Stefan Struve to knock out Bigfoot Silva. But, man, this is an ugly fight. This is a fight that I will take no joy in actually watching. Arlovski versus Overeem. I'm going to go with Overeem via decision. I think that at this point... Well, no, this is a 5-round fight. What am I talking about? Overeem by TKO. I just think Overeem has more in the tank at this point. I'm not sure if he's actually the younger fighter. I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah, 35. 30, yeah, okay, so he's minorly younger. Arlovski did not look good in the Stipe Miocic fight. Did not really look good in the Frank Mir fight. So hasn't really looked great since Travis Brown. Overeem is coming off some better performances. Did not look great against Junior Dos Santos, in fairness, but, looked good against Roy Nelson, looked good against Stefan Struve. Got caught by Ben Rothwell, looked good against Frank Mir. He's found a decent vein after the back-to-back knockout losses to Bigfoot Silva and Travis Brown. Really shattered his hype to a title shot, quite frankly. He's kind of close to it again. I've got Overeem winning here. I think he has more of a complete striking game than Arlovski. I think Arlovski still is pretty hittable. I think Arlovski's very reliant on you exposing yourself with your aggression, something Overeem shouldn't do. He should, at this point in his career, be enough to retain himself, remain defensively fundamental, even when on the offense, and take this fight. I'll be cheering for Arlovski, though. I've always got a soft spot for the Pitbull. And despite the fact that I think he is fixing a lot of the problems with his game. I think if we go back, I was one who defended Arlovski's chin when people said he's got no chin, can't take a hit. He can take a hit. His problem is he takes too many hits, and he takes too many hits right on the butt. So he's gotten better at that, but I just think that Overeem still has enough to put him away. So Alistair Overeem via TKO. That's the fight card. You know what? For a free card, this one's pretty badass. I mean, we have a fight that legitimately affects the top of the division in heavyweight in Overeem Arlovski. We have some good prospects in Tumanov and Nelson and Krylov, who people love. Habilov versus Wade's an interesting but not particularly exciting fight. We'll put it that way. And then Kyoji Horiguchi's on the card against Nosiri. These are all fights that are really, really worth watching. So there you go. I'm very much more hyped on this card than I was on the pay-per-view. Have a good one.